Empire Tales. Attila the Hun, the Scourge of God. Imagine a world in the 5th century. The Roman Empire, once the undisputed master of the world, is crumbling under its own weight. But in the vast, cold steppes of Eurasia, a new shadow is stretching across the continent. A shadow so dark that the Christian world believed the apocalypse had arrived. They did not call him a king or a conqueror. They called him the Scourge of God, a divine whip sent from the heavens to punish humanity for its sins. His name was Attila. To the Romans, he was a barbarian. To his people, he was a godlike leader who possessed the legendary sword of Mars. But to history, he remains the man who looked at the greatest empire on earth and saw only a target for destruction. This is not just a story of war. It is a story of a nomad who almost erased the legacy of Rome from the map. Attila was not born into a palace, but into a saddle. The Huns were master horsemen, nomads who lived and died on the move. They were born warriors, trained from childhood to ride and shoot with a composite bow that could pierce armor from hundreds of yards away. Around the year 434, Attila and his brother, Bleda, inherited the leadership of the Hunnic tribes. For a decade, they ruled as a duo, creating a massive confederation of tribes that became the most feared force in Europe. They treated the Eastern Roman Empire as their personal bank, extracting massive amounts of gold through fear and intimidation. But Attila was not a man built for sharing power. He possessed an insatiable ambition that one throne could not contain. In the year 445, Bleda mysteriously vanished during a hunting trip. While some historical accounts remain vague, most believe Attila murdered his own brother to consolidate absolute power. Now, the Huns had one voice, one vision, and one master. Attila began a series of campaigns that would redefine the borders of Europe, stretching his nomadic empire from the Rhine River all the way to the Caspian Sea. Attila's primary weapon was not always the sword. It was brilliant, ruthless extortion. He treated the capital of the East, Constantinople, like a personal ATM. He demanded thousands of pounds of gold in annual tribute just to keep his horsemen from crossing the Danube. When the Roman Emperor Theodosius II tried to plot Attila's assassination by bribing a Hunnic official, the plan failed miserably. Attila did not just kill the messengers. He sent them back to the emperor with the bribe money tied around their necks as a supreme insult. He realized that the Romans were terrified of the Huns' mobility. A Hunnic warrior could survive for days on raw meat and mare's milk, moving faster than any Roman legion could react. They were the lightning-fast tanks of the ancient world. When the gold payments eventually stopped or were delayed, Attila unleashed a fury that the Balkans would never forget. He burned over 70 cities to the ground, leaving nothing but bone and ash behind. The scourge had truly begun to strike, and the Roman world was trembling. In one of history's strangest twists, Attila's focus shifted to the Western Roman Empire because of a gold ring. Honoria, the sister of the Western Emperor Valentinian III, sent Attila a ring and a plea for help to escape an unwanted marriage. Attila, ever the opportunist, interpreted this as a marriage proposal and demanded half of the Western Roman Empire as her dowry. When the emperor refused, Attila had his excuse for war. In the year 451, Attila turned his eyes toward Gaul, modern-day France. This forced an unthinkable alliance between old enemies. Flavius Aetius, the last great Roman general, had to join forces with the Visigoths to stop the Hunnic tide. The two forces met at the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. It was a clash of titans, a struggle for the very soul of Europe. The scale of the slaughter was legendary. Historians of the time claimed that the streams ran red with the blood of over 160,000 fallen soldiers. For the first time in his life, Attila was checked. He was forced to retreat, but he was far from defeated. The following year, he invaded Italy itself, hungry for revenge. He destroyed cities like Aquileia so thoroughly that they vanished from the map. The refugees from these attacks fled into the marshy lagoons of the Adriatic Sea, eventually founding the city we now know as Venice. Attila was at the very gates of Rome, and the world held its breath. However, he was turned back after a mysterious meeting with Pope Leo I. Some say it was a miracle. Others say it was a massive bribe or the fear of plague. What was truly said in that meeting remains one of history's greatest secrets. The end of Attila the Hun was not the warrior's death he likely expected. It did not happen on a battlefield covered in glory or under a shower of Roman arrows. In the year 453, Attila took a new, young bride named Ildiko. After a night of heavy drinking and celebration, the great conqueror retired to his chambers. The next morning, his guards became worried when he did not emerge. They broke down the doors and found him dead. There were no dagger wounds, no signs of poison. He had suffered a massive nosebleed in his sleep and, in his drunken stupor, choked to death on his own blood. The man who survived 1,000 battles was defeated by a single burst blood vessel. His burial was as secretive as his life was loud. His body was placed in 3 coffins, one of gold, one of silver, and one of iron. His people mourned him by cutting their hair and gashed their faces with swords so that the greatest of warriors should be mourned, not with feminine lamentations and tears, but with the blood of men. To ensure his final resting place remained hidden from tomb robbers, the captives who buried him were slaughtered immediately after the task was done. To this day, the grave of Attila the Hun, filled with the looted treasures of Rome, has never been found. Attila lived for only 47 years, but in that short time, he shook the foundations of human civilization. He was the catalyst that accelerated the final fall of Rome and the birth of a new, fractured Europe. He was a man of fire, a man of blood, and a leader who proved that even the greatest empires are fragile when faced with a shadow from the steppes. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. If you enjoyed this cinematic exploration of the Scourge of God, do not forget to like, subscribe, and join Empire Tales for more legendary stories. The past is never truly dead. It is just waiting to be told.